Good day, everyone. Our topic for today, we have review on the facility management and safety, specifically the HVAC system and fire drill. Now, to effectively address the deficiencies identified during the accreditation visit, it is essential to focus on the compliance with standards related to the HVAC systems and fire drills. However, before discussing these standards in detail, it is important to first establish a clear understanding on what HVAC is and its role within the hospital settings. The acronym HVAC or HVAC stands for Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning. As a healthcare worker in a hospital setting, it is important to have a basic understanding of HVAC system. Now, this knowledge is not limited to FMS technician alone, as HVAC plays a vital role in infection control, patient safety, and maintaining a safe and comfortable environment. Now, being aware on how it functions helps the healthcare staff support compliance with hospital standards and respond appropriately to environmental concerns. Now, before discussing the role of HVAC in the hospital, it is important to first understand how the system works. Let us begin with the basic and starting with the AHU or the air handling unit, which is the key component of the HVAC system. Okay, so the HVAC is a system used to control air temperature, humidity, airflow, and cleanliness inside the hospital. And again, the main component or the key component is the AHU or the air handling unit, which is responsible for treating and circulating air inside the hospital. It takes in fresh air and it removes stale air. It filters and cleans the air. It heats and cools the air. It adjusts humidity level and it distributes conditioned air to rooms and areas of the hospital. Okay, so this is how the AHU or the air handling unit works. So first we have the fresh air intake damper, which is a movable metal flap or valve in the AHU which acts like a door. So it opens, which allows the fresh air to enter, and it closes, which limits or stops the outside air from entering. Now this controls how much outside air enters. So this is important for ventilation and air quality. The second is the pre-filter. This is the first stage of filtration or filter. It removes dust and large particles. The second stage of filter is the fine filter or the HEPA filter, which removes very small particles like the bacteria and viruses. So this is critical in hospitals, especially in ICU and in OR. Then we have the cooling coil, which uses a chilled water or refrigerant and cools the air and removes moisture. Then next we have the heating coil. This is actually optional. For our place, we don't usually have heating coil, but in colder places they have. So in heating coil, it heats the air in cooler conditions and it maintains the required temperature. Then we have humidifier, which adds moisture to air if humidity is too low. Then we have the blower or the fan, which pushes the air through the ducts to the hospital rooms. This is one of the most important moving parts of the AHU or the air handling unit. Then finally, we have the duct connection. This is where the air supply. Now, it sends clean air and conditioned air to rooms. It is connected to diffuser or vents. Now, in summary, the air comes in, the air is filtered, the air is cooled or heated, and then humidity is adjusted. Then the conditioned air is pushed to the different rooms in the hospital. Okay, so I want to present to you the AHU or the air handling unit of our institution. So we actually have two AHU. They are located on top floor of the building and the other one is below ground. Okay, now let's continue. Why HVAC system is critical in our hospital? First, it prevents and controls infection. Now, the HVAC system helps reduce the spread of airborne diseases like tuberculosis, COVID-19, and measles. Now, proper airflow prevents contamination. Now, the negative and the positive pressure must be set correctly. Remember that the positive pressure protects the patient and the negative pressure isolates infection. There's also a filter like the HEPA filter which removes microorganisms from the air. Now remember that setting, documenting, and monitoring is the responsibility of the FMS. Now checking, monitoring, including the provision of basic knowledge on airflow and its significance is the responsibility of the infection control practitioner, while hospital staff is responsible to have a basic knowledge on airflow. They're responsible to report issues with regards to these negative and positive pressure rooms, and to explain or give health teaching on the patient about the benefit of a negative and a positive pressure. Second, maintain air quality. This ensures clean, fresh air circulation for patient, staff, and visitors. Now, it removes dust, chemicals, and harmful particles. It is important for vulnerable patients in ICU and immunocompromised. So the third one is temperature and humidity control. When we say temperature, this is how hot or how cold the air is. Now remember that different area in the hospital have different ranges. Now humidity, this refers to the amount of moisture in the air. Usually it is measured by relative humidity percentage. So normally it is from 30 to 60% the humidity. Now when the humidity is too low, it causes the air to be dry, and there is irritation, and the spread of microorganisms is faster. Then if the humidity is high, there is an excess moisture which promotes mold and bacterial growth. Now for the temperature and humidity control, it keeps the environment comfortable and safe. It prevents bacterial and fungal growth like molds. It supports patient recovery and staff performance. Now next is specialized room requirement. Now, the HVAC system, specifically our policy, will guide correct airflow. Example, in the operation rooms or in OR, positive pressure, this is to keep the germs out. We also have isolation rooms, which is a negative pressure to contain infections. And we have ICU and NICU, wherein the temperature there or the environment is controlled. This is for the critical patient. Then number 5, we have staff and patient safety, which reduces the exposure to airborne hazards like chemicals and anesthetic gases. It also prevents hospital-acquired infections. Example, we have VAP. So how does HVAC system prevents VAP? Okay, we will learn this one as we go on. Then number 6, we have compliance with standards and accreditation. Now, hospital must follow guidelines from organizations like WHO, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, of course from CIBAHE, and also ICAO, the Infection Control Audit. And I remember even when the Nursing Administration came last January, they also asked about humidity. Then number 7, we have emergency preparedness. So the HVAC policies include protocols during outbreaks, fires, and system failures. Now, it ensures continued safe airflow during crisis. Now, I would like to add also that the HVAC system supports medical equipment. Some equipment requires stable temperature and humidity, like for example in laboratory. This also prevents overheating and malfunction. So in summary, the HVAC system in hospital are critical to all staff as they play a key role in maintaining a safe, healthy, and comfortable environment for both patient and healthcare personnel. Okay, so next I want to show you an example of room parameters. So this is general. So we have temperature in ICU. It's approximately 22 to 24 degrees centigrade. And in OR, the temperature is approximately 18 to 22, which is much cooler. And then we also have in the isolation rooms, temperature is approximately 20 to 24 degrees centigrade. Now for the humidity, in ICU, we have 30 to 60%. In OR, about 40 to 60%. While in isolation rooms, we have 30 to 60%. Now, for the airflow in ICU, usually it's neutral or slightly positive pressure, while OR is positive pressure, so the air flows out of the room. While in isolation room, it is negative pressure, where the air flows into the room. Okay, so another information that I got from the air balancing and parameters inspection in our institution, I have here some parameters. They're actually the ranges from the different area. So like for example, in OR, in DR, the temperature is around 17 to 24 degrees. As for the humidity, it's about 45 to 55 percent or relative humidity. In the isolation room of Ward A, Ward B, Ward D, and in ER, temperature is about 17 to 24 degrees centigrade. For the Humidity is about 45 to 55% relative humidity. Now, in the CSSD, you will notice that they have different temperature as well as humidity. For the CSSD clean area, temperature is around 20 to 22 degrees centigrade, while in the sterile area, they have 17 to 24 degrees centigrade, and in the washing area, they have 18 to 20 degrees centigrade. While the humidity in the clean area, they have 35 to 60 relative humidity, and in the sterile area, they have 45 to 55 percentage of relative humidity, and the washing area is around 35 to 60% relative humidity. Okay, now let's continue with the standards related to HVAC systems. So we have the facility management and safety. Standard number 36 states that the hospital provides appropriate control of temperature and humidity in the required locations. Now, temperature and humidity are controlled and regularly monitored in operating and recovery rooms, in nursery, in critical care units like the ICU and NICU. We have sterile storage supply and inpatient rooms. Now, remember that one of the findings of the SIBAHE, and it's already included in the corrective action plan, is that the temperature and humidity were not monitored at that area, and the interviewing staff revealed lack of knowledge. Now, at this stage, I assume that we have already gained some basic information about the HVAC system, and the FMS will begin documenting all monitoring activities to address the findings of the SIBAHE. Okay, I have here additional information with regards to temperature and humidity. In our hospital, it must be strictly controlled and continuously monitored because they directly affect patient safety and infection control and equipment and medicine stability. Like for example in ICU, why control is important? Because critically ill patients have weak immune systems. So even small environmental changes can affect the oxygen demand, the heart function, as well as the recovery. Now, temperature, this prevents hypothermia or overheating. It keeps the patient physiologically stable. Now, for humidity, if it's too low, it dries the respiratory tract, which is bad for ventilated patient. If it's too high, it will lead to promote bacterial and fungal growth. Now, this helps prevent infections like the VAP or the ventilator-associated pneumonia. Now, going to nursery or NI and NICU, why control is critical or important? Because newborns, especially the premature one, they cannot regulate body temperature well. So temperature maintains thermal neutrality, and it also prevents hypothermia, which is very dangerous in neonates, and excess energy use leading to weight loss. Now, humidity prevents skin dehydration and helps protect immature lungs and skin, essential for the survival and growth of premature babies. Now let's go to sterile storage area. Why control is critical? This is to maintain sterility of the supplies like instruments and dressing. Now, temperature prevents degradation of sterile materials. Humidity is very important because high humidity can damage the packaging. It allows microbial growth and it will compromise the sterility. So, if the sterility is lost, it will lead to risk of infection during the procedure. Now, finally, to the patient rooms. Why control is important? Because controlled temperature and humidity, it will lead to comfort and infection prevention on the part of the patient. Now, temperature keeps the patient comfortable, which will lead to healing. It also prevents stress on the body. Then finally, we have humidity, which is a balanced humidity, which will prevent dry skin and airways. It also reduces the spread of airborne microorganisms. Okay, so another standards which is related to the HVAC system, we have the FMS 35, which states that the hospital ensures proper airflows in the required location. So airflows includes a positive and the negative or the balanced airflows. So appropriate airflow are established and monitored in OR, in labor and delivery, in the isolation rooms, in the critical care units, in clean and dirty utility, in janitorial closet, in laboratory, in triage and trauma, and in CSSD. Now, findings related to this standard includes the appropriateness of the airflow. So one area, they state that the airflow is not adequate. Then another is the isolation room, which is supposed to be with negative pressure. It was observed that that isolation room is with positive pressure. And then the interviewed staff revealed lack of knowledge. Okay, let's continue. This is a monitoring device or equipment for our airflow. We have the negative pressure device. We need to be oriented with the operation and functionality of this device to achieve its purpose. Then another, we have the temperature and humidity monitor and control. We need also to be oriented with the ranges so that we will not only document the actual reading but also to take some actions when the achieved or when the actual reading is out of range. Then I want to show you this paper which is used for recording the actual reading of temperature and humidity. Later, I think we have to coordinate with the FMS, specifically with the ranges of temperature and humidity. If you will see here, the humidity here is not very clear because it is written up to 70%. That this means that 5% or 10% is okay as long as it will not exceed 70%. Remember that when the humidity is low, air is dry and it causes irritation. So it is also easier for the microorganism to spread. Another standards related to the HVAC system is FMS 34. This is all about the PPM or the periodic preventive maintenance. Now, all equipment and devices in the laboratory, physical therapy, pharmacy, emergency department, outpatient department, intensive care unit, and all other hospital units undergo regular preventive maintenance. Please be aware of this requirement. This also includes the HVAC system, which is also subject to periodic preventive maintenance. Now, FMS 34 states that there is a PPM plan for the HVAC, that the PPM plan is supported by a trained and specialized staff or contractor, that the HVAC maintenance records are maintained. The HVAC is maintained to control air quality by cleaning and replacing the filters, cleaning of diffuser as well as the ducts, and the HEPA filters are monitored on a monthly basis and the results are documented, and the air change per hour is maintained and per national and international guidelines. Now, for the Sibayo findings, it states here that the hospital did not provide documents for cleaning ducts and diffuser, that the hospital did not provide the required monthly HEPA filter monitoring, that the interviewed staff revealed lack of knowledge on the method of monitoring the HEPA filters. Now, our technicians need to document all the cleaning activities with regards to the HVAC system, and they need to constantly check with the standards, like for example the FMS 34, that the HEPA filters must be monitored on a monthly basis, and as for the staff, they have to keep on updating themselves. Okay, so the PPM for the HVAC system means regular scheduled servicing of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. This is to keep it working efficiently and to prevent breakdown. Now, instead of waiting for the HVAC system to fail, the FMS technician should inspect it regularly, clean the key components, replace the worn parts, and fix small issues early. Now, why PPM is very important in our hospital? Because first, it keeps the temperature and humidity stable. This is critical for patient safety. It maintains clean air and it prevents infection. Then it prevents sudden failure in areas like ICU and the operating room. It extends the life of expensive equipment like what we have in the laboratory. And it ensures compliance with the health standards. Okay, for everyone's information, we have a policies and procedures with regards to HVAC. This is from the Department of FMS or Facility Management and Safety. Now, the policies and procedure contains preventive maintenance of the HVAC system operation sequence for each machine type, hospital maintenance plan for the HVAC system, including the PPM. We also have the chiller maintenance procedure, the daily task for the AHUs or the air handling unit, as well as the HVAC system design guidelines. Please find time to check or to read this policy. Now, for any queries with regards to this policy, you can check with the quality department as well as from the FMS department. Okay, now moving on to our final slides, we have FMS standard number 18, which states that the hospital has a system for scheduling and conducting fire drills regularly. The fire drills are scheduled and conducted regularly in all departments. The fire drills are conducted during the different shifts to test for the race procedure, the pass procedure, the ability to contain the fire when it starts, the staff performance in the event of fire, evacuation procedures, whether the oxygen and electricity supplies were shut off at the right time, all staff participate in the fire drill, all fire drills results and corrective actions are documented and integrated into the quality improvement program. A full fire drill is conducted for the internal disaster plan once a year and the drill is evaluated. Now, with regards to the findings of the SIBAHE, the first one is the hospital did not schedule drills to cover all shifts. Second, the interviewed staff revealed lack of knowledge about fire drills. Now, we have to remember when we see the word fire drills, this simply means the race and pass technique. Then third, there is no evidence of ensuring the participation of all staff from the different department. And then we have the fourth one, the evaluation results, drills, and corrective actions, they were not documented. And these things should be integrated in the quality improvement program. Now, to address all these concerns, we are asking for the participation of all staff from the different department. Now, the CME committee, specifically the academic affairs, will continue to invite the FMS, specifically the disaster and crisis management department, for the feedback of all the drills they have conducted, the drill schedule, and also the corrective action plans if they have. They need to be implemented and to be integrated in the quality improvement programs.